If you're a human, you have found yourself, at times, in drama. Drama is when we feel like life is unfairly happening to us, like we're stuck and powerless to change our life, to change our situation. Maybe really focus on changing things outside of our control. And guess what? We are hardwired for this way of operating. It's the human condition. But in this mode, issues are going to keep recycling again and again. Is there a pattern that keeps showing up in your life time and time again? It's so normal to you, even though you don't like it, you think to yourself, this is just how it's always going to be for me. Change your job? Same manager. Change your boyfriend? Same fights again and again. We can't resolve issues permanently when we're coming from drama. Today, we're going to get into what are the mindsets and self-talk that lead us into drama so that we can recognize it in ourselves and all around us. How do we get ourselves there? What happens when we are there? We're going to understand something called the drama triangle. And next week, we'll learn about shifting out of drama. In the meantime, just know this. In drama, you're lovable. Out of drama, you are lovable. Different experiences, same lovability. There's no right or wrong place to be. You are a human, and you are allowed to be human. Now let's start the show.
Aloud. When you were born, you were whole, perfect. Then somewhere along the way, you learned that parts of you were not allowed here, and you began to chip away at yourself. What are the pieces of you that you've put into the basement? The parts of you that we cannot see anymore or that you cannot even remember? What are the ways that you, without even knowing it, are eroding your own aliveness, your creativity, and your well-being? And how can you reclaim the wholeness that is your birthright? I'm Dr. Keneal Joyce, and I'm here to join you in exploring these questions and many more you didn't even know you were allowed to ask. You are allowed to grow. You're allowed to dream. You are allowed to be exactly who you are and to become the next version of who you want to be. Start your journey of exploration with me right now on Aloud. Aloud. You are allowed to be whole.
Hi, it's Keneal. Welcome back to the show. I'm so excited today to talk about one of my favorite topics, drama, and the drama triangle, which is a model that I learned for the first time from the Conscious Leadership Group. But it's a really old model going back to the 60s that is super, super useful, and I think you're going to get a lot out of it. Before we get into the model and how we might use it in our life as conscious leaders, I want to just share a little bit about some of the ways that drama has shown up in my own life. And perhaps you'll be able to remember a way that it's shown up in yours. So the crazy thing about drama is the same dramas keep getting enacted time and time again in our lives until we resolve them permanently. And one of my favorite forms of drama is job dissatisfaction. My parents are probably laughing as they hear this. And all my poor bosses from before, I'm sorry. So I've had many, many jobs, and I almost always begin with a bang, and I love them. And I even think like this is the job that's going to change my whole life. Oh my gosh, I'm so on the right path. I love this so much. And there's this kind of clingy feeling to it, but I want so much to be on the right path that I really hold on and believe that it's true. And it starts off awesome. I often buy myself a new bag and I have a new routine and I really dive into learning everything there is about this role and the company, and I adopt their values as my own. But then, slowly little things are going to start niggling at me. I might identify ways that the culture is not quite as optimal as it could be. Or I might get really irritated that processes there are not well designed and they're inefficient, or that it's not as inclusive of a culture as possible. Or maybe I just think that the carpet is drab, or I start hating the commute, or something. And I focus in on that dissatisfaction so much that it becomes my whole reality. And as I do this, I alternate between, I'm going to ignore it and I'm going to fix it and I'm going to blame people for it. And I'm going to feel sad and completely hopeless that it's ever going to change. And I'm going to feel stuck. And then this whole cycle leads me into feeling a lot of shame and a lot of guilt. And then I start withdrawing and I don't want people to see me. And then I, lose my social connections. And then, it's really, really bad. So then I changed jobs. Not really a fun experience. And oh boy, my husband has been through many roller coasters on this with me. We've been together for over 20 years. So, this pattern really continued for me until about, oh gosh, I don't know, 7 years ago, and came with quite a bit of pain. And, drama always takes up way more energy than any given situation needs to. And the thing to recognize is, who's the creator of the drama? Well, it's you, In this case, it was me. It's the one experiencing the drama is usually the one creating the drama. And so much of it is based on where we put our focus and our interpretation of the facts and really our own sense of power in the situation. And oftentimes we will find ourselves feeling like this whole entire thing happened to us and it was out of our control. Or we'll frantically be trying to control a bunch of things that we can't control, that truly are out of our control. Either way, it leads to suffering. And drama is highly contagious. So if I'm in drama, I'm going to invite others into drama. One of my characteristics as a type 4 individualist on the Enneagram is that I tend to idealize situations and then I compare reality to an idealized imaginary alternative reality and I get disappointed. I do this not just with, myself and others or myself and job situations, but I even do this within myself. Like I might compare how my life is now to how it used to be. Oh, it was so great back then. Or to how it might be in the future. And oh, I can't wait until I get there. It's so far away. And it creates this kind of chronic level of dissatisfaction. And what the Enneagram teaches us, which is, a topic for another episode, but it teaches us how to recognize those patterns quickly and then a path out of them so that we don't need to be controlled anymore by our patterned personality type. We actually have other options out there. So I want to dive deeper into understanding the different flavors that drama can take in our life and the cost of drama and how to recognize when you're in it, which is absolutely the most important skill here. By far, the most transformative personal development work that I have ever done has come from a group called the Conscious Leadership Group. There's a wonderful book called The 15 Commitments of Conscious Leadership, and that's where you can find a lot of the stuff I'm going to be talking about today. But I've been deeply, deeply immersed in this world of conscious leadership for about 3 years now. Once a month, I gather with a small group of founders, CEOs, venture capitalists, and other coaches. We work with a coach, Diana Chapman, who is one of the co-authors of the 15 Commitments of Conscious Leadership. And she's also a co-founder of that organization. It's a fantastic organization that's really doing some great things to change the world and to wake up the human condition. I've gone on to then learn how to do this coaching model on my own. I have my own forum that I lead. It's a year-long program. And the reason I'm so passionate about it is because I've just never experienced such dramatic, transformative, long-lasting change. It has not just changed my results, it has really changed my experience of being alive in my own body. And it has completely freed me up. So this is a very, very powerful model that I feel is the most important one for anybody who would like to be a conscious leader in their own life. And it's also a model that allows you to be exactly who and how you are. So you can imagine it really, really appeals to me. I want to share with you a model that we work with a ton in conscious leadership, and it's called the drama triangle. The drama triangle actually is a construct that was developed by a psychologist named Stephen Karpman in the late 1960s. And he was studying patterns of victimhood that emerge in communities. And by victimhood, we just mean that the world seems to be happening to you. It's not happening by you. You're not the creator. It happens to you. And in victimhood, we experience 3 distinct flavors of powerlessness. What they all have in common is in all of these situations, there's a perception of a threat. There's a deep belief that there is a threat out there and it's a problem. Now, here are the 3 flavors. The first one is victim. And the victim is the prototypical powerless one that where life is happening to them and they can't solve problems on their own. They need something they don't have. There's scarcity, there's fear, and they feel very, very aware of being threatened. It's no fun. It's a place of a lot of fear, anxiety, trepidation. The second flavor is the villain flavor. And the villain is convinced that the victim is powerless and they're out to find out who is to blame. So they like to criticize, critique, and judge. They might judge themselves, they might judge others. Same as in the victim position on the drama triangle, they might perceive themselves as powerless or they might perceive others as powerless. The last and third flavor is the hero flavor. And this one, we get lots of rewards for being in hero mode in corporate America. The hero is the one who likes to fix and save and solve problems. They're the one who wants to help and really is convinced that the victim is powerless and really needs the help. And if they don't give the help, then the victim will never be saved. Another thing the hero does is they find temporary relief by escaping the consciousness about the situation. So they drift. They might numb their own suffering or numb somebody else's suffering by distraction or by, getting overwhelmed and tired or by multitasking or doing video games or a huge variety of behaviors. In all cases, none of these approaches that the hero is taking is really addressing the problem. It's just providing temporary relief. So these are the three flavors, and I want to dive deeper in and see if you recognize them in your own life. And what's really cool about this is as you get to recognize the flavor showing up in your own life, you will begin to see that you actually, in any given minute when you're in drama, are probably bouncing between all three positions quite rapidly. So in my coaching group, I actually have signs that I put on the floor for each of these three positions: hero, victim, villain. And I have my coachee get up and just rant about the situation that they are in drama about. And they physically move their body from card to card as they hear themselves taking on that role. Each of us has our own little dance that we like to do through the drama triangle, and it's often quite similar, even if the situation is completely different. And that's because what's really driving us is our context, right? It's, am I in a state of threat or am I in a state of trust? And if I'm in a state of threat, like it's the same story again and again, even if the cast is different. All right, so let's dive deeper in. And the goal again is not to judge or blame you for any of these as being true for you. In fact, there's nothing that could be more lovably human. It is so, so natural to go into drama, and there's a ton to learn down here. So I really want you to approach this with a great deal of curiosity, almost like you are a detective hunting through your own life experience, looking for gold nuggets and clues that are going to help you find your way to the life that you most want, to the life where you are powerful. Let's begin. First, let's talk about the victim. The victim is the one for whom life just happens to them. They are at the effect of life. The victim is looking for help. They're looking for security and safety. They also might be looking for people who want to rescue them. They actually are seeking out, non-consciously often, pain and suffering in additional painful and suffering situations. They seek out overwhelming problems that are dramatically big. Their favorite ways to drift out of being present and conscious and aware of their own life might be by being misunderstood. Nobody gets me. Nobody will ever get me. Boy, I've heard myself say that a lot. Feeling overwhelmed. Often they create that overwhelm by taking on way too much or by making way too big a deal out of a lot of things. Getting sick time and again. Getting confused. Waiting and waiting and waiting for things to happen. And whining about it. And whining and whinging and moaning and complaining. They also like to drift away from presence by trying really hard or getting distracted or being disorganized or getting embarrassed or just worrying. So why do they drift from presence? Because in presence, they face the reality that might include some feelings that are a lot to hold, a lot more sadness than they want to hold, a lot more fear, a lot more anger, even a lot more joy and a lot more desire than feel comfortable for them to hold. Then they drift, they go into victim mode, and we get that whining, waiting, whinging, complaining, getting sick, confused, overwhelmed, being misunderstood, looking for people to rescue them. Pain, pain, and suffering. Sound familiar? When we're in victim mode, I mean, it could look a lot of different ways. We could be the complainer who says, "Why is it this way?" And all they need to go into that why mode is any problem whatsoever. So it's really easy to turn anything into a problem. Easy to become a complainer. They might also look like a worrywart. So, this could be a problem. That could be a problem. This could become a problem. And all that they require to go into that mode is irresponsible people or an uncertain future. Now, whose future is not uncertain? A lot of this is about where we put our focus and how big a deal we make out of it, how much meaning we attach. Another persona of the victim would be the unappreciated one, who nobody really sees their value. Or the under-resourced one, like, I don't have enough staff, I don't have enough money, I don't have enough time. Another one of my favorites. They could be the overworked one, the martyr who has to sacrifice themselves. Resigned, I don't have a choice. They made me. Or just overwhelmed with life, misunderstood, needy, like, I can't do it. I need it. I need something else. I need help. I need resources. I need a different computer. Whining, it's not fair. Depressed, I can't get out of this. I'll never get out. The dummy, I don't know how. I just don't know how to fix it. Really reliable, like, oh, yeah, it's the job. It's my role. I can't ever have any fun. I just got to show up like this. Or Hercules. Oh, it's so hard. It's all on me. I'm the only one that can do this. And boy, this was my favorite role to play when I was really fried as a early mother. I just felt like so much was on me. So really felt like it is impossible for this much to be expected of me. Like, it is impossible for this much to be asked of me. This is ridiculous. I can't believe this even is like allowed. And it's hard. It's a hard job. And I really wish that I had done this conscious leadership work before I became a mother. And I've encouraged a lot of clients to really invest the time. I even have one client who's been going through the program with me, and she's, from when she was pregnant to when she had a baby. And she's just reported that doing this work and getting to recognize when she goes into victimhood has been one of the things that has really saved her in those really hard early days. So that is the victim flavor. Can you think of a place in your life where you've been in victimhood? Can you see it in others? Is there any particular thing that triggers you to go into victimhood? For me, one of my favorite triggers is this idea that I don't have enough time. So I'm still working on that scarcity mindset around time, and feeling like if I don't have enough time, I must not be enough. If I'm not enough, it's something about me, and I'll never be enough. And you can hear the victimhood just ramping up right now. I'm going to stop myself here because drama just begets drama. And really, I know that not enough time is a story. It's not a fact. There's plenty of time, and I can even create time. Time is totally in my head. It's a perception. And that's some pretty sophisticated stuff that you can start getting into when you do this mind-bendingly awesome work. Let's go into the second flavor. Second flavor is the villain. Now, the villain is the one who says, you must pay the rent. The victim says, I can't pay the rent. The villain focuses on blame. They might blame themselves. They might blame others. They might blame them. They might blame the system, the man, society, institutionalization, decriminalization, regulation. They love to blame, and they are righteous about it. The villain plays out its role by declaring that it knows what is right, and thus they stifle open conversation and they keep attention on the problem instead of on potential ways to resolve the problem permanently. And this one is a mind-blowing realization for many people. I know that a couple years ago, as I was doing some work on the drama triangle with my coach, Diana Chapman, I was working on some issues I had around feminism, women's rights, and really feeling like, hey, I don't think women are victims, but I think that society is wrong and we are being treated unfairly. And she really pushed and challenged me until I recognized I was super committed to seeing women as victims. It was important to me. It was part of my identity, was blaming society. And if I had to let go of that blame, I didn't really know who I was or how I felt about being a woman or about women in general. And I've actually had a lot of women that I've coached that have come to that same realization. We get really, really attached when we blame. We get really attached to that addictive sense of righteousness that literally is a drug that we create for ourselves. And then we keep our attention on the problem. It's really, really hard to resolve it from that place. Doesn't mean we don't want something different. Above the line, we can want something different. But below the line in drama, we get so attached, it's actually impossible to create that change. The villain seeks out control. They're looking for people and things to criticize. They often criticize themselves. They're looking for enemies to conquer. They're looking for where to place blame, and they're looking for the right way. Their favorite ways to avoid being present in their current reality are getting righteous, judging people, policing. Oh, I know I do this sometimes with my kids. Don't hit your sister. Don't tell him that. Don't tell my husband, hey, stop treating the kids this way. Like, that's big time villain mode for me. Still working on that policing. Dismissing others, ignoring, interrupting, like your thing is not important enough to say, justifying, intellectualizing, and making things complex and difficult to really deal with because they're so abstract. They also love comparing. They might compare themselves to other people, or they might compare people to each other. Who's better? Who's worse? They like to lecture. They get bored easily when others are lecturing them. Now, there's a few other personas that the villain might play. So they might be the kind of villain that is a rebel. You can't make me. I'm in charge. Or they might be a cynic. We've all had that wet blanket person in the room during a meeting where every single idea is potentially wrong. The problem with that idea is, no. If we do that, then this might happen. Or like, I don't believe in any of that fluffy woo-woo stuff. You're too soft and touchy-feely for me. Oh, I've never heard that one before. They might be the critic, like, you're doing it wrong. There's a better way to do it. Here's the right way. They might gossip, which means they're just talking about people without that person being in the room. Like, they've been bad. Oh, it really shouldn't be this way. Did you hear what happened? They might be a dunce and just, really self-blaming, like, I'm so stupid. How have I been so dumb? Why did I do this? And all they need to go into that mode is just pressure to perform. They might be a time cop looking out for those who don't value their time. You're late. You're taking too long. Or the repeat offender. Oh, I'm so ashamed of myself. I can't believe I broke the rules again. I feel so guilty. Or the Puritan. There's only one true way. My favorite flavor of Puritanism right now is the highly artisanal foodie. Many of whom are my friends, and I probably am one myself, where, I remember telling our babysitter when she went to go get groceries for me, she came back and she bought organic milk. And I said, no, we don't drink organic milk. We drink organic grass-fed milk. Very, very particular. So that's one of my puritanical ways. And all I need there is just people not to believe that it's really important. And then I really go into it, right? Like, oh my gosh, you don't know? You don't know about how important it is to have grass-fed milk? Oh, it's a completely different chemical structure. It changes your brain forever. We're raising our kids. Oh my gosh. And I can really stand for grass-fed milk without going into villain mode, right? That's an important thing to realize here is I can want it. I can prefer it. I can even decide I'm only going to drink it. But it's when I go into blame about the system that creates the other milk, or the people who market it, or the person who bought it, or myself for drinking some other kind of milk, that blame mindset is what brings me into villain. Couple more flavors of villain are Mr. Sarcasm, the one who likes to jab and make little jokes that kind of sting. And then you say, hey, like that didn't feel very good. And they say, I'm just being funny. Well, not to me. All they need are people who can get hurt, and then they can go right into that mode. It's a really safe, passive-aggressive way to get your giggles. A really painful one is the narcissist. The narcissist who believes that they are the most important. And the only thing you need to do to trigger a narcissist into villain mode is to show that you are not completely devoted to them. And oh boy, if you've ever been around a person like this, then drama ensues, and they will do anything in their power to make sure that they are the only thing in the world that you are focused on. Where's your focus? The problem. Success. Villain mode in action. So the villain is one of us that we are We are actually really, really encouraged by the media to take this role on, and especially in these highly charged political times. But even if you look at, magazines for preteen girls, it's teaching a lot of do's and don'ts, rights and wrongs about how you should be, how you should show up. Cosmopolitan, the best way to please your man, as if there's a wrong way to please your man. But the idea that there's a best way, there's only one way, and that we are actually not good if we don't follow that way, these subtle messages sell a lot of product. And when we keep buying that product because we're coming from a place of I'm not enough or there's only a right way and a wrong way, all we're doing is we are taking our Mother Earth and we are putting stuff straight into the landfill. And we're often dumping stuff into our bodies or denying our bodies of what they naturally need. This is a mode that is very, very destructive. All of these drama modes are very destructive. So it's super important to recognize, when am I being invited into judgment, criticism, and blame? And how can I see that really there is not a right and a wrong way here? Maybe I have a preference and maybe they do, but I'm not right and neither are they. There is no right and wrong. So you can see how this work can get pretty edgy when we're coming from a super dualistic, very judgmental, puritanical culture. The idea that there's not a right and a wrong way is fairly radical, but the effects of taking this on are transformative. Now, let's go into the third and final position on the drama triangle, every corporate star's favorite, the hero. So the hero is up to seeking temporary relief. Keyword, temporary. Doesn't last. It's just to avoid suffering for a little while. It's not to resolve the problem. So what they look for is they just look for suffering inside or outside of themselves. But rather than suffering by feeling helpless like the victim, they take on the position that they are able to control or change the situation. Whoa, they're all powerful. They can control things way out of their control. They react to pain by finding temporary ways to make pain go away. They always believe that there's a reward right around the corner, especially if it's something that they can do to fix or save or solve a problem. This expectation of a reward leads them to believing that they or others will feel better because of their actions. So the hero plays out this role. They apply a solution to a problem. So they really need to believe that there is a problem and there is a threat. There's a key thing that needs to be changed. It needs to be. It's important and it's serious. And why is it important to resolve the problem that is so freaking serious? It's because it's super important to avoid feelings or discomfort of any kind. The hero doesn't want to feel their feelings. Instead, they seek out appreciation, rewards, recognition, problems to fix and obsess on, people who need saving, pain that needs to be relieved and soothed, and conflicts that can't exist and need to be resolved right away. And they love to drift from presence. They're superstars at this. Each of us has our own favorite ways of heroing ourselves and others. It might be eating or drinking, organizing things to death. That's one of my favorite ways. Achieving in order to get approval or gold stars from the outside. Withdrawing into themselves, going in their room, shutting the door, ignoring life. Or like really obsessing on, I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to get busy. I'm going to do a bunch of research. I'm going to read the instructions. I'm going to make a plan. I'm going to analyze. I'm going to test. I'm going to experiment. Boom, life is happening, but I'm really sucked into the problem. They may overpromise and underdeliver. They might get really interested in gossip, believing that there's a solution there or that it's a happy distraction from reality. They might look really, really interested in what's going on in front of them so that they can avoid the feelings of what's happening in a bigger context. They might really focus on doing it right. Doing it right feels really good when you're suffering. Heroes like to do caretaking, and they like to solve problems and help. Now, it doesn't mean you can't take care of others, help, and solve problems from above the line. The difference is, are you doing it to permanently resolve an issue while you're willing to feel all of your authentic feelings and let others have theirs? Or are you trying to avoid your feelings, avoid suffering, and so you're just temporarily getting some relief? That's the big difference. And there are so many different ways that this hero persona shows up in our lives, and I'm sure we'll recognize a lot of these in ourselves and in the world around us. And like I said, none of it's wrong, but it's kind of funny. So, the withdrawer is the one who needs space. I just need space. I need time alone. I'm going to go out into the woods. I just need to shut down. I need to just zone out. Uh, I do this sometimes, and all we need to be triggered into that mode is just too much responsibility and needy people. Needy people. So, any new moms out there? Any new dads? Anyone feel needy in your life? The nice guy is another hero mode. This is the one that always wants to be kind and caring and protect others. If anybody around them seems critical or aggressive, they really want to stop and make sure that that person gets treated gently. Who's the person they're trying to get treated gently? The one that they're seeing as a victim, right? So these roles are highly interdependent. Another way we might see a hero is in multitasking. Multitasker hero believes I can do it all right now. They have a big sense of urgency and busyness, and you can't even slow them down. They are not present to you. They're just busy, 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 focused on their task. They're not in reality. They're getting temporary relief through their busyness. Or they might be Peter Pan, the one who never wants to grow up and like just any problem comes up, let's have fun. Let's just be happy, be positive. We can do it. Look on the bright side. And then there's the flatterer. The flatterer, when they think that you might be down, they love to reassure you and convince you that you actually have got it all going right and that you're the best person in the world. They just need you to believe that you don't value yourself. And then you're going to start hearing a bunch of compliments that feel kind of weird because they're coming from below the line. And the motivation is actually for that person to get temporary relief. So it doesn't really land as a compliment, but it might be soothing in the short term. So, can you recognize any of these roles in yourself? What are your favorite hero behaviors? How do you like to avoid suffering temporarily when things get really, really tough and you feel like you don't have the power to fix it? And what are the ways that you get into action mode, trying to fix and solve and save things when you think that there's a big threat out there or that somebody is a victim? Now, the key here is not to change the behavior. It's more to recognize it. At this stage, let's all just focus on I want to start noticing when I'm in drama. I want to start recognizing which of these three flavors am I in? Am I in hero, victim, or villain? Only when we can recognize it can we begin to understand how we got ourselves there in the first place. And only if we recognize that root cause and we can take responsibility for it, can we even hope to shift into a different way of operating? Now, it's really hard to talk about drama and how it's related to being right without getting a question that I get every single time I teach this. And certainly was one that I asked myself many, many times over the first couple years of working this material. And that question is, given that there are travesties happening in the world, how can you say that it's just as true that that's right as that that is wrong? How can you say that there's no clear right and wrong way? There's no clear good and evil. And the response is, I can do anything from above or below the line. From above the line, however, I might really, really want something to be different. And I might be even like committed to it. I've devoted my life to creating a change because it is important to me. It matters to me. But I hold it from a place of curiosity, and I can do it without being righteous. I can be really convinced that that's what I want. I can be really clear on my vision for how it could be different, but I don't necessarily think I'm right about it. And it is a big leap to get to. Now, remember, probably 90% of us are below the line 90% of the time. So if what I'm saying is not ringing true for you, it just means that you're there, and that's totally okay. This is pretty radical, edgy stuff when you push it to its edges like this. But who am I to say that my way is right? For a long time, we believed that the earth was flat and that anybody who believed it was round was a heretic. And now most of us believe that it's round. Although I just watched a really interesting documentary called The Earth is Flat. And there are a growing number of people who really believe that the earth is flat, which is fascinating. I highly recommend seeing it. Great movie. So the point is that what's right and wrong does change over time. We don't know how things are ultimately going to play out. Nobody wants others to experience pain, usually except for a villain. Um, and none of us wants to suffer, right? But when we are coming from a place of righteousness where I'm convinced I'm right and you're wrong, I'm going to further exacerbate the suffering. I'm going to deepen the trauma. I'm not going to be open and curious about what can I learn that can actually help us get closer. How can we learn about and understand each other so we can get into an authentic dialogue and realize where the mismatches are and where the alignments are and create an agreement that is sustainable so that we can permanently resolve the issue. So it's not to say that there aren't things in the world that I want to be dramatically different, because I do. As the first episode I covered my own social change agenda, which I'm very, very clear on. I want to reverse climate change. I want to support women and girls, and I want to create equal opportunity for people to access entrepreneurial and artistic opportunities. And these things are super important to me, and I have deep reasons why. And I stand for them, but I'm not right about them. I'm not right that if we reverse climate change, it's better. It might be better if we don't, and we just get off the planet completely. I don't know. I don't have the answer to that. I'm not in charge, but I do know what I want now from my perspective based on what I have learned. And I want to keep that learner's mindset so that I can be effective, right? So that's the difference. I know it can be a hard pill to swallow. So keep those listener questions coming in. They really help, I think, for me to be able to speak to the questions that probably a lot of you are asking. So even if you think you're the only one who wonders something, do not hesitate to send it in, and you can email it to me at hello@keneal.com. You can also grab us on social media. I'm on Instagram at keneal.is. Twitter is at Keneal. Facebook, I think it's Keneal Joys. And in next week's episode, we're going to talk about how to love ourselves in drama just as much as we love ourselves when we're in a state of trust and flow and presence and creativity. We're going to learn some key skills to shift out of drama. We're going to learn about how we can change from a victim into a creator, from a villain into a challenger who's constructive, and how to change from a hero into a coach. And this above the line triangle is a place where we can resolve issues permanently, but it's not necessarily as fast or easy to get up there as you might be hoping it is. So if I gave you all of those keys in today's episode, which is probably what you're wanting, the risk is you might hero yourself and convince yourself that you have shifted above the line into that powerful mode up there in state of trust, when in truth, you're just getting temporary relief by convincing yourself that you have. By far, the biggest move, the most important move for you to make is to start asking yourself the question at any given time, where am I? Am I in drama or am I in trust? So as you go through this week, I want you to start noticing when you find yourself in any of those roles, and then ask yourself, what do I think I'm right about? Inevitably, if we are in drama, there's something we are convinced we're right about. That's all it takes to get ourselves down there into drama. What do I think I'm right about? If I'm in victim mode, am I feeling right that I deserve something I'm not getting? Or am I feeling right that someone else is to blame, and they're keeping me down and I don't have the resources that I need? If I'm in villain mode, am I convinced that I'm right that another person or system is wrong? And if I'm in hero mode, am I being right that I don't really have to feel these feelings, or that I really can control these situations that truthfully are very far out of my control? So in the show notes, I'm offering you a tool for you to download. It's called the Drama Cards. And these are tools, and a lot of the content actually from today's show comes straight from these cards. These are tools that are open source, and they're available from the Conscious Leadership Group at conscious.is. And I also have special versions of them and a guide for how to use them available in a link in the show notes. So go to keneal.com/podcast-6. And that's where you can find an exercise and a brief video walking you through how you can use these cards to better recognize when you're in drama. And in the world of conscious leaders, many of us have multiple copies of these cards laminated. I've got some in my car, in my purse, in the office. I've got multiple in my home. I know there's often a recommendation, have one in the bedroom, one in the kitchen, one in the family room, because you're going to find so many opportunities to be in drama at home. Usually the juicy stuff happens there where our heart is really open and we really, really need that love. So the more you can start recognizing it, the more opportunity you have to shift. And like I said, we'll get to that next week. In the meantime, just get curious. This can be a ton of fun. It is hilarious to start recognizing, oh my gosh, I'm completely in hero mode. Whoa, listen to this villain in me. It's really fun, and treat it again like an expedition where you are trying to discover yourself with a sense of lightness and play. And you could even write down some of the times when you are finding yourself getting into drama. You will learn a lot through this process. Also, join us on Facebook and let us know what you're noticing this week as you go through this exercise. When are you in drama? Where are you seeing drama show up around you? And what are you trying to be right about that's keeping you in drama? Have a ball with it. I promise this is really, really fun when you get into it, and I'll see you next week. Aloud. For more information, check out my website, Caneel.com/podcast, CANEEL, Caneel.com/podcast, where you can find tons of resources, new episodes, show notes, transcripts, videos, all that good stuff to deepen your learning experience. Also, follow me on social. Send me your feedback there. Ask me your questions. I'm Caneel.is on Instagram and @Caneel on Twitter. Allowed. You are allowed to be whole.